This event is invite only. Please step aside. Ivy Carter blinked in disbelief as the doorman's words hit her. The tall, well-dressed man stood between her and the grand entrance to the Crescent Hotel's gala, blocking her path like a wall. She had just spent the past 6 months meticulously planning this charity event, the one that would elevate her family's legacy even further. She had worked tirelessly to ensure everything was perfect, from the guest list to the final touch on the decorations. Yet here she was, standing in front of her own event, being told she couldn't enter. Ivy's pulse quickened. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" She couldn't quite believe it. "This event is invite only. Please step aside, ma'am." The doorman, his voice polite but unwavering, took a step back, motioning for her to leave. Ivy took a deep breath, holding herself together. "I'm the host," she said, keeping her voice steady but with a sharp edge. "I'm the one who organized this entire event. This is my hotel. Let me in." The doorman didn't even flinch. He glanced at his clipboard and then back at her, eyes scanning Ivy with a mixture of confusion and something colder. "I'm afraid you're not on the list," he said, his voice flat. "I'll have to ask you to leave." Ivy's stomach twisted. The familiar sting of being dismissed, being invisible, crept up her spine. She had worked hard for this night, worked her way to the top of an industry that had always looked down on her. And now, this. "You don't understand," Ivy said, taking a step closer. "I am Ivy Carter, the owner of this hotel. This is my event. You're refusing me entry?" The doorman barely blinked. "No exceptions, ma'am." Ivy stood still, processing the absurdity of it all. There was no way this was happening. Not tonight. Not on her night. She scanned the elegant marble floors, the glittering chandeliers, and the bustling crowd of guests inside, laughing and chatting, none of them realizing the scene unfolding right outside. Her pulse raced, and for a brief moment she considered just walking away. But she wasn't going to let this go. "I'll speak to your manager," Ivy said, her voice firm. The doorman stepped aside slightly, making no effort to escort her or offer an apology. Ivy walked past him, feeling the weight of every eye that turned in her direction as she entered the lobby. The grand entrance of her own hotel felt unfamiliar, like a place she had never truly belonged. The whispers started almost immediately. She could hear the murmurs from the other guests, subtle but unmistakable. As Ivy approached the front desk, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, her mind raced. She was done with these passive-aggressive slights. She wasn't just going to let them deny her. She had built this place, fought tooth and nail for it, and now she was going to take control. Behind the counter, Jeremy Drake, the night manager, looked up from his paperwork, his expression briefly flicking to one of surprise. Ivy didn't give him time to react. "Jeremy," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the room, "I need to speak to you, now." Jeremy stood up quickly, but the forced smile he wore didn't quite reach his eyes. He was trying to play it cool, but Ivy knew better. He was a veteran of the hotel, one of the few old-timers who thought he knew the ropes better than anyone else, and one of the many who had always doubted her. "Yes, Miss Carter?" Jeremy said with practiced politeness. His tone was professional, but Ivy could see the wariness in his eyes. "I was just denied entry to my own event," Ivy stated flatly. "What is going on?" Jeremy glanced nervously over his shoulder at the staff, his posture stiffening. "I'm sure there's some misunderstanding, Miss Carter," he began, but Ivy cut him off. "A misunderstanding?" She took a step closer, her voice low but sharp. "I own this hotel. I'm the one who organized this entire charity gala. I should be the one running the show, not standing here being dismissed by a doorman who doesn't even know who I am." Jeremy faltered for a second, but quickly recovered. "Of course, Miss Carter. I'll get to the bottom of this right away. Please, just give me a moment." Ivy wasn't having it. She'd been patient long enough. Every time she tried to prove herself, it seemed like the same story. Her authority questioned, her identity overlooked. This was supposed to be her night, her moment. But now, standing in the lobby, Ivy realized that the problem wasn't just the doorman or even Jeremy. It was deeper. It was systemic. The staff had no respect for her, and it was clear that no matter how much success she'd built, they saw her as nothing more than an outsider, someone who wasn't worthy of the space she had fought so hard to create. "You know what? I don't think I need to wait for anyone," Ivy said, her voice steady but her hands clenched at her sides. You want to talk to me? Fine. Let's talk. But not like this. I'm not going to stand here and pretend like nothing's wrong. Jeremy's brow furrowed. I'm sure this is all just a misunderstanding. Let me handle it, Miss Carter. No, Ivy said, shaking her head. You don't get to handle this. You don't get to disrespect me like this. It's not just tonight, Jeremy. This has been going on for months. People look at me and assume I don't belong. They don't see the hours I've put into this place, the fights I've had to win to keep it running. You all just see a black woman in a business suit, and you think I'm not capable of running it. Jeremy's lips pressed into a thin line. Miss Carter, No, Ivy interrupted again, louder this time. You don't get to speak for me anymore. You're fired. The words hung in the air like a punch. The lobby seemed to go quiet, the murmurs from the guests dimming in the background. Ivy's heart pounded, but she didn't back down. She could feel the weight of the room on her shoulders, but this time she wasn't going to shrink. She was done being underestimated. Jeremy Drake, Ivy continued, her voice unwavering, you're fired, and you're not the only one. The shock in the lobby was palpable. Jeremy's face went pale, his mouth opening and closing as if searching for words, but none came. He looked around helplessly, but no one spoke up in his defense. The realization hit him hard. Ivy wasn't just angry, she was taking control, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Jeremy began, but Ivy didn't let him finish. You've been here too long, Jeremy, Ivy said, her eyes locked onto his, her voice calm yet forceful. And you've been undermining me for just as long. I won't stand for it. Not anymore. You were supposed to be helping me build this, not belittling it. Around them, the whispers of the guests grew louder. Some were still trying to act as though they hadn't noticed the confrontation, while others subtly edged closer, their eyes glued to the scene unfolding before them. Ivy could feel their gaze, but this time, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what they thought, or how they judged her. She was doing this for herself, no one else. Jeremy's shoulders slumped, but he quickly regained his posture, trying to act like the same confident man who had been running the hotel. You can't do this. I've worked here for years. I can do whatever I want, Ivy interrupted coldly, her voice cutting through his protests. I've earned it. With a sharp turn, Ivy walked behind the desk, pushing past Jeremy. She looked at the other staff members, the ones who had been silently observing, waiting for someone else to make a move. Lena, the senior event coordinator, stood by the counter, her face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and uncertainty. Ivy's eyes found hers. You, Ivy said, her tone even, but the sting in her voice was undeniable. You knew better. You've been with me long enough to understand that disrespecting me won't get you anywhere. And yet you still chose to belittle me. You're fired too. Lena's jaw dropped. Wait, no, you can't just fire me. I've worked here for 10 years. 10 years of what? Ivy shot back. Of enabling this nonsense? Of letting people think they can walk all over me because I don't fit your idea of what a real boss looks like? You're just as bad as Jeremy. Ivy felt a strange sense of power in the moment. She had never thought of herself as someone who wanted to fire people. She had always been the one to encourage her staff, to support them, but something inside her had snapped. They had all made the assumption that she didn't belong, that she wasn't capable. Well, I guess this is your wake-up call, Ivy said, her words heavy with finality. You're all dismissed. I'll be speaking to HR about your terminations. The silence in the lobby was deafening. Ivy looked at each of the remaining staff members, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. A few guests glanced nervously around the room, sensing the tension. But the worst part wasn't over. Just then, Marcus, the head of security, emerged from the back. He was a tall, imposing figure, but when he saw the scene in front of him, his face shifted from calm professionalism to confusion. What's going on here? Marcus asked, eyeing the staff members who had just fired. I'm handling it, Marcus, Ivy replied, her voice steady but cold. The people you're used to taking orders from? They're gone. Marcus paused, clearly weighing his words. Miss Carter, you can't just— No, Marcus, you can't just ignore the facts anymore, Ivy said, cutting him off. I don't need to ask for your approval. This hotel doesn't run on the foundation of racist assumptions. If you can't accept that, then you're next. The threat hung in the air like a shadow. Ivy's gaze hardened. She had given them every chance. Now, She had to ensure this never happened again, not just for herself, but for everyone who had been treated like she had. Marcus stood frozen, his gaze darting between the staff and Ivy. His lips parted as if he was about to protest, but then something changed. He looked down at his phone, probably reading the social media storm that had erupted over the incident. Jennifer's live stream had exploded, and Ivy could feel the weight of the attention on her. She knew this wasn't just about her. This was bigger. This was about setting a precedent, sending a message that there was no place for discrimination in her world. Marcus's posture relaxed, and his voice softened. "Miss Carter, I've seen enough. What you're saying, it's true." Ivy blinked, surprised by his sudden shift. "What are you talking about?" "I've seen the way they've treated you," Marcus admitted, his voice low. "I've watched it happen. It's wrong, and I should have said something sooner." Ivy paused for a moment, her mind racing. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Real change. She wasn't alone in this. "I want to work with you, Marcus," Ivy said, her voice softer now. "We can turn this place around, but it's going to take a commitment from everyone. You're either with me or you're not." Marcus nodded slowly. "I'm with you." Ivy turned back to the staff who had remained silent up until now. She met each of their eyes one by one. "If you're going to stay, then you need to prove it. You're going to be part of the change. Starting tomorrow, we're going to implement new training. Everyone will undergo diversity training, and I'll be overseeing it personally. If you want to remain here, you'll have to earn it." A few staff members exchanged glances, nodding reluctantly. The energy in the room shifted. There was tension, but it was no longer about fear or defiance. It was about the uncomfortable but necessary reality of change. Ivy straightened up and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. The room had changed, her hotel had changed, and now she was ready to face whatever came next. Ivy stood in the center of the lobby, her gaze sweeping over the remaining staff. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her resolve was unwavering. This wasn't just about tonight. It wasn't just about the Crescent Hotel or the event she had been denied access to. This was about ensuring that no one, especially people like her, would ever have to face what she had gone through. The staff stood still, some with heads lowered in shame, others trying to hide their discomfort behind a mask of professionalism. It was a strange feeling, being surrounded by the people who should have been her allies, now forced to confront their own biases. "I'm going to give you all a chance to redeem yourselves," Ivy said, her voice cutting through the silence. "But this is your final warning. If any of you disrespect me again, or any other guest, there will be no second chances." Her words echoed around the lobby, heavy with the weight of their meaning. Ivy wasn't just talking about her. She was talking about the future of the hotel, the future of the people who worked there, and the kind of business she wanted to run. A business based on respect, a business where people from all walks of life could come in and feel welcome. Jennifer, the young woman who had been live streaming the entire ordeal, was still in the corner, her phone raised in the air. She had stopped recording, but her presence was still felt. Ivy turned toward her, an idea sparking in her mind. "You," Ivy said, her voice more gentle now. "I saw you recording this. You've got guts." Jennifer's face flushed with surprise, but she stepped forward, holding her phone tightly in her hands. I wanted to make sure someone saw what was happening," she said softly. "I respect that," Ivy replied. "I need people who aren't afraid to speak up. You have a platform. You should use it for good. If you're serious about making a change, we need voices like yours." Jennifer blinked, processing Ivy's words. "Are you saying you want me to help?" Ivy smiled, feeling the first real sense of empowerment she'd had all night. "Exactly. I'm serious about creating change, and I need people who are ready to roll up their sleeves and help." With that, Ivy turned back to the group, her voice steady and commanding. "Now, here's how we're going to fix this. Immediate reform. Starting tomorrow, every staff member will undergo comprehensive training, diversity, inclusivity, unconscious bias training, and a complete overhaul of our hiring process. I want us to be an example, not just in hospitality, but in the world. I want people to know that when they come here, they'll be treated with respect, no matter who they are, no matter where they come from." The room was quiet for a moment as Ivy's words sunk in. Then slowly, one by one, the remaining staff members nodded, some with hesitation, others with determination. Ivy could see the shift in the room. They weren't just agreeing with her out of fear. They were agreeing because, deep down, they knew this was right. Ivy took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief that she hadn't anticipated. There was still so much to be done, but tonight was the beginning of a new chapter for the Crescent Hotel. "I'll be overseeing the first session tomorrow," Ivy continued, "and there will be a zero-tolerance policy for any further disrespect. If you're on board, we start fresh. If not, don't bother showing up." The message was clear. Anyone unwilling to change had no place in her vision. The power dynamics had shifted. Ivy had taken control, not just of her company, but of the culture within it. She was determined to make sure no one else would feel the sting of being overlooked or dismissed like she had been tonight. As Ivy moved toward the elevators, she paused, turning back to the lobby. The guests were still there, but the tension was gone. The atmosphere had lightened, and for the first time that night, Ivy felt a sense of calm. She had taken the reins. She had made the hard decision, and it was already starting to pay off. Ivy looked at Marcus, who had been standing quietly by the entrance, watching everything unfold. "Thank you," she said simply, "for understanding, for not letting me walk this road alone." Marcus gave her a small, respectful nod. "I've got your back, Miss Carter, always." Ivy smiled, giving him a nod of acknowledgement before stepping into the elevator. As the doors closed, she felt a small sense of satisfaction settle over her. The battle wasn't over, but tonight she had won the first round, and she would continue to fight for the change she wanted to see, not just in her hotel, but in the world. As Ivy sat in her office later that night, reviewing plans for the following day's training session, her phone buzzed. She opened a message from her assistant, Ella, with an update about the media storm. "I'm tracking the coverage now," Ella wrote. "Your video is everywhere. The hashtag Crescent Hotel Reform is already trending. People are praising your actions." Ivy couldn't help but smile. She had done it. The world was watching, and this was just the beginning. She paused for a moment and then typed a quick response. "Good. Let's keep the momentum going. Time to show the world how it's done." As the night wore on, Ivy felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had made her stand, and the changes she had promised would be implemented immediately. But Ivy wasn't done. She still had a long road ahead, filled with challenges and hurdles, but tonight she had shown herself and the world that she wouldn't back down. Not ever. Here brings us to the end of the story, where a black woman took control and turned a moment of humiliation into an opportunity for real change. It wasn't just about firing the staff. It was about standing up for what's right and ensuring that her hotel, her legacy, would be built on respect and inclusion. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Ivy made the right call, or was she too quick to take such drastic action? Have you ever been in a situation where you had to stand up for yourself in the face of adversity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share with friends who might need a little inspiration today.